All right, before we get started here today, just a reminder, and we said this on last week's show, you, the Perpetual Traffic listener, have an exclusive offer from Wicked Reports to save $100 when they start with Wicked Reports, and, which is incredible, get a free $1,000 data scientist consulting call after you onboard. So you guys do this and actually charge $1,000 for it, but for anyone who signs up through the wickedreports.com/PT link will get $100 off, as well as a free call, which is $1,000 value. That's not a bullshit value. That's a real value to get a data scientist actually on the call to go through and set up all these MPIs and get you to start using Wicked Reports and really understand exactly how it's going to scale and grow your business. So that's over at wickedreports.com/PT. Okay, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic Podcast. This is your host, Ralph Burns. I'm the founder and CEO of Tier 11, and alongside
Lauren E. Petrillo, the founder of Mongoose Media,
who is calling in today from Porto, Portugal. And we are not calling in from Porto, Portugal. We're calling in from Brookline, Massachusetts. And alongside
you should say it with a Boston accent.
Yeah, we're in Brooklyn. We're calling in from frickin' Brookline here.
Oh, from Fenway Park.
From Fenway Park, where our ears are still ringing after the Pearl Jam concert the other night.
I know.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
It was a good night.
It was. And this is Scott Desgrosellier. No, actually, that's how Siri pronounces it. That's the reason why I can never pronounce your name. I realized that this morning.
Blaming it on AI blame has become a new trend.
Desgrosellier.
Blame it on the AI.
Desgrosellier. See, I said it. See, I knew it. I actually did do 5 years of French, believe it or not. So
really,
I could,
You should be able to say it like Lauren. You say it great. I think.
Desgrosellier.
Yeah, she gets the throat.
Yeah, parce que j'ai étudié français quand j'étais jeune.
So, Wicked Scott Desgrosellier. How about that? Pretty good.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Desgrosellier is back here for part 2 with some more revelations about some of the marketing performance indicators. Why are these things so important? Well, they're all added into Wicked Reports. Wicked Reports is the third-party attribution software that we use. Like I said before, there's a lot of other third-party attribution softwares, like Northbeam especially, I do think is excellent for the enterprise level. But as far as these individual metrics, if you're a small to mid-size to larger business, like the platform that you guys have built here is outstanding, because you can go in and look at all these individual metrics and gauge exactly how well your campaigns are doing, not relying or not being over-reliant on in-app metrics. And one of the things that we talked about the last time we were here was estimated cost or effective cost per new site visit, and new site as well as NCAC, which is new cost to acquire a customer, is highly important now, because that is the goal of all businesses, which is to acquire new customers and ultimately enhance their lifetime value. And that's how you grow and scale. But one of the bigger problems is that when you start doing this on Meta specifically, Meta has a tendency to bring in a lot of those warm traffic audiences. And you did an analysis of 3,000 campaigns. Maybe tell the listeners and the viewers, if you're not watching on YouTube, definitely check us out over at perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. We will be doing a screen share here today. So if you're walking the dog or at the gym, definitely check this out over at YouTube after you're done with all that. So go ahead. So what was the study that you did, this deep dive analysis, to shed some light on this?
So after the first pod, and from consulting with some clients recently and hearing other people weigh in, they love this new visit concept, because you got to drive new eyeballs. That's the top of the funnel. You got to build your funnel block by block. And then people were racking their brains, as always, why isn't Meta scaling as much as I want? It's a challenging environment. And so when we looked at the account last session, we saw the new visits around 30-something%. And I see that a lot. It's around a third. And so I was wondering, because people say, well, I'm trying what you said. I think my exclusions are right. Meta's ignoring my exclusions. And that just bugged me. I was like, Meta wouldn't, I can't put anything by them, right? But I was like, are they really just going to say, we don't care, we're just going to secretly spend your money? Like, they got to reveal it somewhere. So I had my database guy pull out, we had 3,300 Advantage campaigns running. So I said, pull those all in. Let's look at the new visit percentage average on those. Let's look at new versus repeat customers that are getting acquired so we can get a baseline and see, is this an epidemic? Is it just bad account setup? Is it good account setup that Meta's sneaking? What's going on? So what I found was that the average new visit percentage, for example, in July of these 3,300 campaigns was 18%. So a 33% was actually better than normal. And I was like, geez, twice as good.
Yeah.
And then the percentage of new customers acquired versus repeat was 53%. So Advantage is, and just so you know, like how we determine that is we pull in like Shopify, WooCommerce, whatever. We pull in your customers. And then if there's a click from Meta that turns into a sale, we go and say, hey, was this the first time this email address ever bought or not? Or, you know, all these other ways to identify them. But we compare it against your actual log of people that bought in your source system. So we know whether it's new or repeat. And that trend's pretty much held. Like going back the past year, let me get my data on the other screen here. The average is 60% all time. So 60% all time new customers. So you start up an AI campaign, you're all excited, it's going to find new people. No, it's good at retargeting and finding existing people almost 50% of the time. And it's only driving clicks. 1 out of every like 5 are actually brand new. So that was pretty eye-opening to me. Before we get into why that's happening, that was, you know, does that surprise you guys, or is that a common thing you're hearing from people?
It's a common thing we're hearing. The question is the why behind it, and maybe we can go into like what is Meta's policy, Lauren, as far as like this whole thing is concerned. Like, what do they say to the user about new customers or new visits versus
Yeah. Well, if you remember when you could do the check to expand audiences, that was like the precursor to Advantage Plus audiences as a product. You would have this, hey, we're going to expand beyond who you have. Now with Advantage Plus, it's already automatically expanded. So they have like this disclaimer type of language that tells you we're basically going to ignore any other audience segmentation you've established in the account, minus anything you put in the account settings specifically, because it's the only true place to like limit by age or to limit by geographical regions. But they tell you like in a very like post-it kind of note.
Yeah.
Here you go. Just know that we have a footnote to that. Like, we're basically going to ignore everything you have to say. And I think unless you're really, really in the Meta Ads platform, it's not something that you're going to understand, because let's be honest, who reads all the footnotes inside of a book? And when you read it once, you don't go deep into this. So to the question earlier, is this pretty common? I'd say like it's definitely an issue, because I think most people don't properly funnel build in Meta, which I think leads into like, Scott, how you found where this is happening more prevalent than anything else.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't think Meta's just, I know they're footnoting it, but I mean, they can't just like see what are they actually doing. So on their business help center, they talk about, you know, because I had a couple people like very savvy media buyers, like really upset that they couldn't get this new visit number up. And we go prowling around their ad set manager and be like, geez, the settings look right. You're excluding website traffic and you created it the new way you have to do it, not from the pixel. We got to create it from Google, you know, from your audience and then import it in. And they did that all right. And so it turns out that certain campaign objectives, as told on their business help center, will override what you set up as an audience and automatically apply the Advantage audience, which then means what's happening is the AI, as we talked about at length in episode 1, is going to say, hey, who's most likely to hit the objective? And it's most likely people that are familiar with your brand, not new visitors. So if you scroll up just a little, for those of you watching at home, it says Advantage lookalike is only available for these objectives and optimizations.
Allow me to screen share.
I was like...
So basically, the very most common conversion events are going to automatically pull in Advantage audiences. So you see here, leads and sales, and then catalog ads, those are pretty common.
Yeah.
That's probably most times you're running ads are to get more sales. What's the point? So, you have to pick at the campaign, you got to pick an objective that's not one of these in order to have Meta listen to what you want to exclude fully. Because otherwise, they're going to, if you're trying to find brand new people, you got to almost choose an objective, just clicks. If that even still an objective, maybe they remove that. One that's not on this list, you have to choose traffic.
Right.
And then everyone says, "Oh, I don't get good. I don't get great traffic from traffic." Pun just sort of happened there. But why they say that is because in-app measurement is not going to generally look favorably on top of the funnel true cold traffic. So this whole thing comes back to, if you're staring at in-app ROAS, then the AI is also saying, geez, I got to get this number up, or I know people aren't going to spend. My bosses, the people that programmed me, if spend doesn't go up, I'm going to get fired. Yeah. And then they say, okay, I got to retarget people more likely. So you got to force the algo. The only way to do it is to leave AI out of it however you can, so this setting isn't forced in. So it's a pretty big, in my opinion, development, because you want at least half of your traffic coming from new clicks, and then all this awesome advantage stuff can go to work, but just not at the very top.
This is really interesting, because a couple of shows ago, we'll leave links in the show notes, we talked about this on the Google side with one John Moran. And he uses TROAS or TCPA, which is sort of similar to a conversion campaign, but then realized that, all right, it's just those campaigns as well as Performance Max, just like Advantage Plus here. It's the AI, it's the algorithm sort of, you're circling the wagons on the traffic that's most likely to convert, and it won't go outside of that circle. And as a result of that, most TROAS campaigns, most Performance Max campaigns really can't scale. And the end around on that is a max clicks campaign, which is exactly what we're talking about.
No way. I didn't watch that one yet.
So I'm sort of making the comparison, because I kept saying to him during that episode, I'm like, I know this is the same thing inside Meta, or at least it's going to be similar, because it makes sense. So you end up, the solution to this is really, and this is something for us to test, obviously. And we do a fair amount of full funnel. We've got a case study we'll be presenting on the show here within the next couple of weeks about full funnel when we use these types of tactics. But regardless, the solution to this might be to do sort of the two-step strategy in Google over translating it over to Meta. And that's how you actually create your audiences, is you create your own retargeting audiences by starting top of funnel with a traffic campaign, and then let Advantage Plus do its thing.
Yes.
Because they've shown an interest. Interest is a click in this particular case. Maybe I don't know if view through is a part of that, but interest, according to the Advantage Plus campaign, is somebody that's visited your website, correct? So they're going to be thrown into that group, which is really just sort of a massive retargeting group, unless you can figure out the exclusions. Am I missing anything there?
No, that's correct. Because every time I've seen Advantage get enabled, it generally ignores when people exclude their CRM and cart and customer list. It's still retarget. And then they're like, how did a repeat customer get in here? I excluded them. And we'll go click on the actual people, and then we'll see, no, they're a new customer. And then we'll see this, massive click path and be like, well, it did. And this is now the reason why, at least is explained. So then, you're going to have as you said, top of the funnel needs to be only objectives that aren't going to enable. If the Advantage audience is enabled and running, it's going to be a retargeting campaign. It's proven it. 3,300 campaigns anyway.
So Lauren, what's your experience? Have you tried this at all on your side of the equation here, or your side of the Atlantic?
Usually I'm just south of you, just same time zone.
I know. We share the same side of the Atlantic normally, but not now.
We do. I know. Now I'm all the way over here. I would say, everything you're saying is like spot on to what we've seen consistently. And what's hard about that is when you have smaller businesses or smaller ad accounts, the refusal to go full funnel and to have the budget solely towards conversion objective, lead objectives, which we know Meta is favoring, with these audiences saying like, trust us, because they want the credit, you end up like hurting yourself long term. And it's a really uphill climb when you're saying you need to go full funnel. You can't treat your Meta ads like an ATM. It's not 2015 as much as you want to. So I know that we have seen this consistently when we can do full funnel, when we can get people to opt into the brand before we have them opt into the offer or service, we've been able to have a greater marketing efficiency ratio. Like all the KPIs and MPIs that we've been talking about, Ralph, it's a more effective way to use social media advertising, because at the end of the day, social media is still social. So you need people to have a conversation. And I think it's just been with the pandemic and then with the early onset of Facebook ads, a lot of media buyers and brands have the wrong understanding of how to leverage Meta, and they assume if I can't make $20 for every dollar I spend in, it doesn't work. When in the fact of the matter is, it's a full funnel, cost effective way to introduce your brand and then your offer to people that are interested in what you have to say. And I think one of the other things that we found to be really true about this is in that retargeting, a lot of it too is for that new, and I don't even know, Scott, how you could do another analysis to this, but when you opt into a brand or an offer of some type, now you're served their 5 competitors. So often when people are afraid of doing top of funnel content, it's because they think that they're going up to bat against products that are completely unrelated. When in fact, if you're going up to bat, you're actually just competing against 5 or 6 other of your competitors, because that person has shown an interest or a propensity to want a specific app or want a specific product. So when you do that, like we've constantly seen Meta give example time and time again of why this is advantageous for you. And even within like audience segments, they updated like a few months ago, so you can see specifically inside your Meta ad account who is your engaged customers. That continues to support what Scott's found. Now going through 3,300 different campaigns, because he's got the network that supports it, which is why a tool like Wicked Reports gets to aggregate. I'm sure there's a better word, to take all those learnings and import it to aggregate. Yeah, there we go. Aggregate all those learnings into a
good
better
word, like that
tool.
word.
Yeah. It's just like,
Now say it in Portuguese.
eu não falo português.
100%. Like that's it. In your experience, before we get on to sort of the second part to this, is there any way that you found to better exclude in Advantage Plus or in cold traffic conversion campaigns? Are we missing anything here based upon Meta's terms of service or anything that you've discovered in your learnings? Or is it just, it is what it is? Like don't expect it to be greater than 33% best case scenario of new traffic. We're just going to retarget the stuff that people, that makes the algorithm look as good as possible.
Of course, because it's to their advantage. Why wouldn't you, right?
That's why it's called Advantage Plus. It's not necessarily your advantage. It's to Meta's advantage. I just sort of figured that one out.
Wait, but that is funny. But it still is an advantageous solution, because it does help go for the conversions. Like you're still getting. Sure. I'm not throwing the baby out of the bathwater. I'm just saying Scott's right, because this bathwater is a little dirty. Right. Like.
It's 2/3 dirty. That's pretty dirty. That's a solid film on the top. So you got to part it like pudding and get in there.
Dirty bathtub.
But like you can remember, like
you need some bleach. Something.
You want to bleach it? Okay. So going to your question of the exclusions, I really liked how Scott brought up something where you can't rely on the pixel data, which I think again is what we see when we like audit accounts. People are excluding, assuming that pixels works full percent, right? You assume that people aren't using cookie blockers. They're not using alternative search engines that they're masking who they are, or VPNs and all that stuff. So much of that data gets lost, and people don't think about it and over rely on pixels. You shouldn't. But in terms of like doing true exclusions, no, you're sorry. It's not our game. It's Meta's.
Like, I don't know, you've been drinking port or something, and all of a sudden you just came up with this.
Wait. There is an exclusion that you can do. Like you talk about port, right? There are alcohol brands that you can't advertise alcohol, but you can advertise content related to it, and you have to have specific age requirements. And so you can go into the ad account settings, and you can put in specific exclusions that allow you for audience, but it's not to the degree that we actually want. It's not customers. You can't exclude them.
Right. So you're not going to really like it. In a best case scenario, I mean, I've seen new visits inside Wicked Reports, and also Because I think actually in Wicked Reports, I've seen it as like 43% is like the highest for new visits I've ever seen, which is kind of insane. But if you're in and around the 30-40% using these metrics, like these are MPIs, and if you haven't gotten the MPI checklist, for crying out loud, go get it. Otherwise, you don't know what we're talking about here at perpetualtraffic.com/MPI. The point is like you want to be able to see this. You want to be able to understand it. And inside Wicked, you can see this now. I mean, obviously there's settings inside of Meta, but the point is that this is agnostic to the platform. And the reason why is that Advantage Plus and Meta itself, like, why wouldn't they target traffic that is the most likely to buy? So instead of fighting it, figure out a strategy around it. And it might be this traffic and or step up above, which is going to be much lower CPMs, by the way. As soon as you go into traffic campaigns, or you go into video views, or you go into reach, like this is going to be something that we're going to have to go deeper into because we've already done it on the Google
sub
side.
$15 in the US.
Yeah.
Like we got like $2-3 audiences that we're going after in very competitive space. Like the weight loss space is really hard. New moms, really hard. Not another objective.
So think about it this way: you're creating your own retargeting audiences with just a level up. You know,
I say opt into the brand before you have them opt into your offer or services because you're going, it's like asking, I use the courting thing. Like I want to court someone because I ultimately want to marry them so that they keep coming back and repurchasing. But when you're going straight for leads, straight for the conversion, you're looking for like the OMS situation.
Right. You're in the dogfight there. You're in the high value keyword sort of equivalent on Google. It's like there's only so much traffic there, but you're also fighting everybody else for that audience that's likely to convert. You have to go out and create a brand, create a distinct message. This is why creative is the biggest wheel in the conversion engine, which is the whole thing that powers tier 11, is because creative is so important. Yeah, the tactics on the traffic side are super important, but that's the tactical side. You have to create the audiences and have a message that's different than the market, or you're the loudest voice in the market. Sometimes that's all it is, really. Like he who yells the loudest oftentimes is the one who wins in marketing. Like we've seen it before. No distinct difference between our advantage versus the competition, but they just have $1 million, top line budget or $1 billion budget. Like that's why people still run Super Bowl ads. That's why you see insurance ads on every other ad when you watch football on Sundays, which I know you and I watch. Yes, I don't think Lauren watches a whole lot. She watches the football with the FU football. Probably less so on the insurance side. The point is that you have to create your own branding, and it goes back to sort of marketing 101. It makes sense here that they would do it this way. So instead of fighting it, lean into it and test it out. And we'll have some case studies here in short order to be able to show you how to do it.
What I like is that it gives you an edge because most people aren't going to take the time to create a click campaign at the top because they're going to see the in-app ROAS and say, oh, that's not as good as these retargeting ROASs. They're actually kind of inflated inside the app, but still, it's another topic. Yep. So therefore, they're not. If you have that strategy of I'm just going to buy these clicks and rely on third-party measurement, not in-app, because other people that see the same results as you, if they're bidding on the cold traffic, they see the crappy ROAS in-app, so they're going to not spend as much. Now, if you're instead spending a ton on that and then waiting a customer sales cycle to see the results, you might find it's a huge influx of fresh prospects that can get you to that next level of your growth KPI you're trying to hit.
Makes sense. So more on that to come, but appreciate the analysis there. It's pretty compelling. And if you're getting frustrated with this, you're not alone. So I think there's a lot that we can follow up on this. The second part, and I know we have limited time here today because you've got to run off to an appointment. We were midway through some of the marketing performance indicators inside of Wicked, and then we had to abruptly stop because, people are only going to listen to us for a certain amount of time, unfortunately.
We were in the flow, too.
We were in the flow. We had to stop. But the point is that getting back to that. All right, so more to come on all of that. We'll have a case study on that, which is a full funnel case study, which we've been teasing for quite some time and is going to be presented at Meta, Lauren Petrullo, on October 1st. So the first time anyone's seen it. So more of that to come. But let's get back to what we were talking about on the first episode. Well, if you haven't listened to the first episode with Scott, I will leave links to that over in the show notes, obviously at perpetualtraffic.com. But we wanted people to be really clear on the columns I think they set up initially in order to be able to pull this stuff out. That's one of the big questions that I have, is that a lot of folks will say, all right, well, that's great, ECPNV and NCAC and everything else. How do you actually find it? Well, here's how you find it. It's now in columns here. So maybe just customize columns.
Sure. So I'm going to manage columns. Now we have all our columns over here to the left, which you can check box, which then will make
perpetual traffic columns.
I'm going to do that. We just had the idea last week and you had a couple days.
You don't snap your fingers and people just do it?
I understood this was PT privilege. We get it within days.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one thing I like to do is I like to think about it in the flow of the funnel. Like I paid money, I got clicks. Were they new? What did they cost for the new visits? Did they turn into anything in my first party data? And then segment it down. The new customers, what did they cost and what was their order value? And then what's their LTV? And then how much revenue did new bring? And then the repeats. What was the CAC, AOV, LTV, and revenue there?
I like it.
So kind of looking at it that way.
All after that, ACAC.
Yep.
And anything with an A is all.
Yep.
N, anything with an N, NCAC, for example, is no.
And then the new and repeat should be brought up here. So we can just drag them up. I'm going to do how many how many new customers to new revenue was that? And then we'll do the same with repeat.
And this is, just to be clear, this is not modeled data.
No, this is the actual brand's data. No model data.
So you're piping this in from the CRM, from Shopify, wherever. These are actual real sales.
We're piping them in, and then we're running our attribution scoring models on them based on what your campaign goals are. So we have all kinds of different ways to attribute the data based on what you're trying to achieve. Right. But here,
it's not made up.
None of it's made up. None of it's accepted.
In the back room, just like,
no,
I don't know, doing wicked algorithms on stuff and making everything look good to make you guys more money.
No, 11 years of models.
So, this is not the advantage, Scott.
No. Just piping out. How can I take more credit?
I like that. Scott's advantage, not your advantage.
So this one right here, what I like about this one, so the blow here is the trend. So here's the cost, we're doing it for the past month versus the previous month. Then you can see the trend. So you've doubled the costs. So whenever you doubled the budget, people get skittish. But what I really like is you've 400% increased new visits. So some exclusions get in there, some good hard work. So there's a lot more new visitors coming. You didn't just pay for more retargeting. Because you had more new visitors, your cost for a new visitor plummeted from $4.50 to $2. Now, why this is important is because you're getting more new people in, which means likely there's a chance that your NCAC is going to come down, because NCAC, new customers, can only be because it was a new customer buying. You'll say, wait a minute, I'm running ads for new customers. Well, as we covered quite a bit now, Meta loves to retarget people that are already customers. So your NCAC came down because you're bringing in way more potential new customers. And then also the offers, the creative's working and the offer's working. So your NCAC's plummeted. And then revenue has gone up. When your costs go up 100% and your revenue goes up 600%, that's always a beautiful thing.
That's great numbers. Happy. That's great math. That's media buyer saves the day.
Yes, 100%. So this is just, if you're not looking at this on screen, definitely go over to perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. This is a killer masterclass and just how to read all these metrics here. And what we're doing is we're comparing the last 30 days up until today to the previous 30 days. So something happened. This media buyer obviously sort of got wise. And if we look at, I had to reverse my, oh no. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
It was good morning,
Ralph. Kevin. See, this is the problem with the trackpad being in the reverse. Like, I want my fingers to go the opposite
I think it'll
direction.
keep my order.
Hang on. Sure. Kevin. You need a smooth retarget. A smooth edit here from my electric fingers.
Okay, it's coming. Just gonna pump the trends in.
It's coming. There we go. All right. So if I'm looking at this accurately, don't touch anything. Scott's a non-Mac guy. That's why we're on a Mac. And credit to you. So I had to reverse my
Thank God.
trackpad so that you actually were able to do today's screen share. So the media buyer got wise. Obviously, started to scale by 136%, but the new visits don't correlate to me. Why is the new visits so high in this particular case? Do you know? Did he do exclusions?
We'd have to dig into your business, your Facebook account to see what he did differently.
Okay. Because it's not in correlation to it. It's like there's a massive difference in brand new clicks.
Oh, God.
We've seen this a lot, at least for us. When you're pushing the budget larger, there's a smaller percentage of retargeting because you're pushing a larger net. You're capturing more conversions that are positive from new people. So that wider net brings in a lot more. So that's where we have seen, when we have pushed budgets aggressively, we've seen that similar parity in, okay, because Meta's like, oh my gosh, there's all this new money. Who can I go after? I'm going to actually go after new people because I don't want to scale the remarketing, because then that becomes competitive in and of itself later. It's like a self-eating Ouroboros.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty significant surge right there. That's what I'm saying.
And
like a 4 or 5x surge of new visits.
This is one of the bigger ones I've seen to have happen like that.
Yeah.
The other reason
I agree with what you're saying, Lauren. I just haven't seen it this much.
Yeah.
Like with
We've seen it because we go into the engaged audience segments. Like, so you can go inside of Graphs inside of Meta and look at, like, as an additional custom column breakdown of engaged first move. So that's where we see it when we're looking at in-app metrics.
Right.
Now, the other thing to consider why the revenue is going way up is maybe lots of times the delayed conversions. I never can talk about them enough because there's a ton of delayed conversions that happen from ad platforms.
Yes.
And so we hold on to these clicks forever. We have much bigger, longer windows. So the delayed clicks from the previous month that now convert.
There's also business context we're not aware of, though, because what's happened in that time period. We had Labor Day, so there could have been a massive Labor Day sale as well for a greater contribution.
Totally. Yep. End of the summer, either was good or bad for this brand. Yep.
Good point. Excellent point.
So then the other thing to do is you come over here and you can compare new AOVs as we saw in the other one. AOVs new versus repeat customer here is $198, $159 for a new. Look at that one. You get all these AOVs are up 20, 30%. So whatever the strategy was to get the AOV up, which then benefits all the KPIs, as long as the conversion rates hold. They've managed to get 20% more on AOV, which is going to help everything look better.
Yeah, they did actually on this client account. This is a tier 11 account, which is blurred out obviously for consistency and for privacy purchases or privacy
purposes.
Kevin, for privacy purposes. Try and say that fast 10 times. There was a Labor Day sale here, so that's the reason why we're seeing some of these surges here. So obviously we're not using this to just overly inflate our brilliance and expertise as media buyers, but to show you that these columns actually do move when you do scale. So just thought I'd add that in there.
Well, you struggled with the privacy terms. Amalgamate is a word. Just FYI, it was right in the content.
Amalgamate? Yes, it is.
It's easier to pronounce. So, it's okay. Like, Scott, we're just waiting for you to flub it up.
So then, this is the view to see a lot of things at once. So I like it, but there's hundreds of views. You can come in and pick your particular goal. We'll see new customers. Then you can pick which particular channel you're optimizing on, and then it will create the view for you. Now we're going to put a perpetual traffic, and then we'll have your marketing performance indicator view. And then you can just pick it and I'll be in there. So that'll be coming, a couple weeks, maybe less.
So Scott, in this, if someone's new to Wicked Reports, or maybe they're taking over an account that's been using Wicked Reports, and going to that reports view, if you click that up in one more time, what would be the first 3 reports that someone who's getting into this to start? Like, where would you tell them to start painting a picture, either when auditing or starting over, to understand the easiest value from using a third-party tool like this?
Yeah. So the big one right here, optimize Facebook for short term from new customers, because this is going to really open your eyes to the new versus repeat situation and the new visitors. without going in there, we can already, I mean, the columns we've already talked about, but it'll limit it to just looking at it from a new perspective. And then you'll be a little traumatized because you'll see, oh my God, the ROAS is a lot lower. One, because we're only looking at the news, and two, because in that particular slice or view of the world, and two, because we're looking multi-channel, because email, SMS, and then branded search and Amazon for the bigger brands clean up a ton of bottom of the funnel. And so if you weren't already prioritizing or strategizing around top and middle funnel for Meta, Facebook, you're going to find that, oh man, these ROASs seem a lot lower than I'm used to seeing in the platform. So that's going to be stressful at first. But when you can make the numbers work right, and if you can get aligned around MER as your overall North Star, or some people only are based on net new. Some agencies come in, they only get credit for new. So then they align around NCAC alone. I've seen that happen, a couple successful people. And you got to get alignment on that one. But then that's when you find, okay, in-app metrics aren't going to help me at all in that case. I've got to have something to tell me new.
Right. It's all about new. So so that's a cool setting to have. Obviously, the perpetual traffic setting is going to be the best setting here
Ever.
without
In the history of metrics.
In the history of metrics. The
Bigly.
best.
It's going to help it bigly.
Yeah. So according to Jean Morin, we have 100 marketing performance indicators that we're tracking, 100 plus. And we boiled it down to the top 15 or 20 here. Like in the checklist, there's 15.
Yep.
But there's a ton more. Just before we, I know,
Stomach's
Kevin. So before we have to go here, maybe show us anything else that's relevant here for people to take a look at in order to really optimize for new visits, new customers, all of that, and how you're able to sort of use some of the metrics here, some of the MPIs in order to make data-driven decisions, Lauren, on your campaigns.
Well,
this is actually data-driven decisions as opposed to the bullshit that most agencies talk about as data-driven decisions. This is actually it.
It's data derived from data because your data should be driving your decisions.
Different because data-driven is such drivel now.
I know.
People are so tired of it.
I need a
Well, it's like
framework.
data can be manipulated, right? You can tell a story based off of numbers, but it doesn't paint the entire picture. So this is like the canvas, the full artwork in a frame data, not a zoomed in of a really pretty eye that then you think it's a Monet and comes a Picasso.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, you're in Europe. You're very like high culture today.
Well, there's a lot of talk of CAC. One thing I'll close, a lot of talk on CAC to LTV ratio. But then when you dig in, is the CMO or CEO greenlighting the budget really going to give you credit for all of the LTV? Like particularly if it's a subscription brand and they have like 4 years of subscriptions and they're going to say, oh, the customers are worth 10 grand. They're like, great. I'm going to buy customers at $500 all day. You're going to make 20 to 1. And then guess what? They're not happy because like the CAC's too high. The CAC's too high. You're like, no, you're not. The LTV is 10,000. I'm making you 20 to 1. I've seen this happen a lot. What you need to do is, you just can kind of like move that over a little. It'll wrap.
Move it around. Yeah.
So you can, what you need to do is figure out how much LTV are you going to be willing, is the man or woman cutting the checks or business being willing to wait for. Mm-hmm. And then that's the LTV target you got to have. So this is like all-time LTV. And LTV, though, as you see, will be smaller because these people, the LTV they've bought in the past.
Totally makes sense.
So you can tell you the story, but what you want to do, it's usually either 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, or a year. That's what people will in the stomach. If you can get a year from a subscription brand, that's fantastic. Because then you can have the proper NCAC to mirror the commitment it's going to take for someone to opt in for a subscription. And then you can actually start with enough money to play with. But if people are trying to be profitable from day one on a brand new customer, like if you look in here, you guys are actually doing it. You're making 2 to 1, a little over 2. They should be quite happy because then when they get LTV that comes in, that's all just profit they're making on top. But it's as a media buyer, you want to get your hands on as much CAC budget as you can so that you can win as many auctions as you can. So determining that LTV you can harness is a big thing, and then you can measure it in here and adjust accordingly.
And there is a reason why NAOV is probably lower here is because they did a Labor Day sale, which totally makes sense because your AOV is obviously going to be discounted based upon the discount price in the sale. So, but they're investing now into the future and also investing now because they're going to kick ass on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. As we talked about on one of the previous episodes, which Lauren discussed, like Labor Day should be your testing ground, like your preseason to your Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So
Because you do your recruitment you get people to opt into your brand in the summer, and then you give them a great offer. And if they're not going to bite during Labor Day, you might have not acquired the right audiences in the summer. So then you can adjust audience segments for Black Friday. And then if they did bite, then you've now proven your runway. So going back to like understanding the true numbers, which I think most people, like most media buyers, when they're just isolated to this, don't know the true numbers and what the CMOs and brands can stomach. Like what you're talking about, like understanding that runway of where profitability is so big. And I think when you're able to prep Black Friday, Cyber Monday earlier, you can prove the stomach for an even steeper discount later because, it's the most competitive time, smallest margins.
Mm-hmm.
I hate Black Friday, but I get it. It's fine.
it's a necessary evil for sure. But I mean, think about it as a new customer grab as much. Well, not really Cyber Monday, Black Friday. It's sort of your repeat customers mostly, but I mean, it is a customer grab and obviously it's revenue. I mean, you have to do it in the right way. We'll have plenty of episodes on strategies as we get closer to that date here. So this is just sort of a preview of all that.
Mm-hmm.
But this has been great. Like first off, we'll leave all the links in the show notes for everything that we talked about here. Actually, I've been writing notes on resources to make sure that we get them all in.
Awesome.
And obviously, for anyone who's been listening the last couple of episodes here, what do you got? What can you offer the PT listener? Kick-ass offer to get started on Wicked Reports.
Well, two things. I'll give you $100 off to get started, but more valuable, I'll give you a one-time $1,000 data scientist call. Well, they'll actually look at your marketing performance indicators that have been covered and assess how you're doing, and then any recommendations on what to change in your account. So that'll be available at wickedreports.com/PT.
So $1,000 for a half-hour call, somebody to
1 hour
set
call.
this up.
It's for 1 hour. Yep.
$1,000 an hour.
Yep.
So like the biggest question people have sometimes when they start with Wicked Reports is like, how do I set it all up? Can I get somebody to
you won't need this.
me?
Yeah. Okay. So we already have an onboarding rep assigned to your account to help you. Okay. Based on your integrations, you may be set up in an hour, or if you have some crazy custom shopping cart and you need to get the API developers, blah, 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 it could take a little longer because you have a custom shopping cart. So it can take anywhere.
Someone on to help with the technical expertise.
Yeah,
anyway.
We got a tech expert to get the tracking dialed in.
Yep.
Then once that's set, then you've got the call. So this calls for once you have data flowing in. It's 2-3 weeks after you're set up. Would be the most valuable where you want to cash that one in.
That's huge. All right. So wickedreports.com. I approve this
All
message.
Right.
That's good. I want it to, to be wicked good for the PT listener here. That's pretty damn good. So $100 off your first month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is significant. We'll have to run that by Adrian as to whether or not it actually makes any financial sense, but it doesn't matter. Yes. We're doing it here. And after your onboarding, you get a 1 hour call with a data scientist and they charge out $1,000 an hour. Correct. You guys bill that out at $1,000 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So that's key. So check that out over at wickedreports.com/PT.
Yes.
And sign up today. Otherwise, none of this stuff really makes a whole lot of sense unless you can figure out a way or create your own Wicked Reports, which good luck trying to do that. We tried to do that 3 or 4 years ago. Don't do it. I'm telling you. Threw $200,000 down the shitter on that one. So thank you so much for coming on to Perpetual Traffic and for giving what seems like a pretty freaking good offer here for people to get started with. Yeah. Well, if you're not serious about this stuff, then I don't know. Go listen to Marketing School. Sorry, Neil. I'm just kidding. We love the guys at Marketing School, Neil. And
I was like, I have Eric's book in my I love Level Up. I love that stuff, and I listen to them all the time. But we have a better deal than they do. You can never, you can never give Marketing School the same offer. PT listeners all day.
Okay. We're all about insane offers here. All right. So check that out at wickedreports.com/PT. And of course, check us out on our YouTube channel. I will not plug the MPIs checklist anymore, Lauren. I promise.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, well, it's sort of the foundation of everything that we're trying to do to transform the industry here because we think there's so much crap
Yeah.
in the agency space. But we'll leave that for another episode for right now. Get off my soapbox. So, on behalf of my awesome co-host, calling in from Portugal, by the way, last minute. Kudos to you for getting on this call so last minute here. We're going to do it solo, but everything's better with Lauren Petrullo. So thank you for coming on. On behalf of you, Lauren.
Ciao.
This
And
is
you're
Wicked
welcome.
Scott Desgrosellier, not Desgroselliers.
Desgrosellier.
Thank you for coming on.
Botched it.
Desgrosellier.
There we go.
See, I did it this morning.
Yeah, you had to go look at your note.
I had to go look at my notes.
Totally saw you like that.
Old habits die hard. Yes. That's the problem with you being here. You can see me cheating in my little remarkable.
Look, if you didn't cheat, you didn't try.
That's right. You didn't cheat me. You ain't trying. On behalf of Wicked Scott, probably won't be the last time you'll appear here on PT. Until next show, see ya.